7.
Extra time on Tipp FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome to another edition of Extra Time. My name is Ronan Quirk. We're here until 8 o'clock this evening and we'd love to hear from you. Our text number is 083 311 3311. That also works for WhatsApp messages. We're also on Blue Sky. Our Blue Sky handle is Extra Time at bsky.social. That text number again is 083 311 3311. Lots to come on tonight's show because we're looking forward to the national leagues which get underway next weekend. The hurlers in action in Semple Stadium next Saturday night at 7 o'clock against Galway, and our footballers are in London to take on the home team there in Ruislip and on Sunday afternoon. So the hurlers Saturday night, the footballers Sunday afternoon. We look forward to both the campaigns which will get underway next weekend. Later on tonight's show we'll also be looking back on the Harty Cup semi-final. What a belter it was in Templederry on Saturday afternoon. A sold out Templederry. It finished Nenagh CBS 118, Thurles CBS 20 points. We'll hear from the protagonists in due course, and we'll also have Munster Junior Cup action in soccer. Barry Ryan will join us, and we're also looking as well for nominations for the Tipp FM Sports Star of the Month for January. If you see something that you think is worthy of a nomination, send in an email to sportstar@tippfm.com. That's sportstar@tippfm.com. Our text number again is 083 311 3311. Let's hear from Donnacha O'Donnell, the Nenagh CBS manager, who spoke to the assembled media, Shane Brophy and Paul Carroll of this parish, after that dramatic win for Nenagh CBS that sees them go through to the Harty Cup final, where they take on St Flannan's of Ennis, who defeated St Joseph's Tulla on a scoreline of 219 to 311. So it's a Flannan's Nenagh final. Here's what Donnacha O'Donnell had to say at the end of a pulsating game.
Those ones are the ones you remember, you know.
Yeah.
Like they were champions last year, we were 2 years ago, so we knew there was never going to be anything in it. And the way the game panned out, it was very much like that, and it looked like a draw at several stages, you know. And I think our guys just dug it out in that last few minutes, you know.
And I suppose the way it was won, you got the ball into the man you were crying out to get into most of the game, because you just didn't get enough of it. And Patrick Hackett won that free. Like he was immense to say all through.
Absolutely, and I think even he could have probably got another couple of frees on another day, you know. And again, his work rate has improved so much. He's so strong over the ball, and he's so determined, you know. Like even if he loses that ball, the fullback still has a big job trying to get out around him, you know.
Yeah, and just in terms of managing that game from the sideline, like you were being more direct. Thurles were trying to find the spaces. Like it was probably a difficult game to try and manage, was that there was so many things happening in terms of what Thurles were trying to do, and you're trying to negate it and then bring the fight to them as well. Yeah, and again, they played totally different than they did against El Sal the last day, and again it was different, totally different type of game. So again, we found it hard to adjust to that a little bit at times, you know. I think their shooting from outside was excellent, but they didn't really look like a goal threat at any stage. And I think we probably did, and we probably missed a couple of goal chances, you know, that we should try and put right for the next day, you know. These guys.
The last kind of couple of years, maybe since the Harty Cup win a couple of years ago, these occasions have even grown in kind of hype and things like that. It must be unreal for the players and their even development to get out and play a game like today in the atmosphere like that and against the players they're playing against.
Absolutely, like the standards have gone up and up and up, and the standards of preparations have gone up. I mean, I've been involved with inter-county teams that aren't as well organised as us. I'm not being smart now saying that, but like the attention to detail, our physios, Cian and Conor in gold standard, our recovery session, Siobhan O'Leary does a recovery session with us every day after a match, our S&C, like it's just, and our video sessions again are so important, like, you know. And you're trying to manage a group of players that are playing county under 20, county minor, and then finishing off a club season with the huge amount of work gone into them, you know. So it's very hard to adjust that and to keep them right, you know.
Owen Duhan is the captain of the team. He would have been on the team 2 years ago as well. His development has been there for us all to see, but how is he kind of as the captain of this team? What's he like in around this group?
He's a quiet young fella, but he's a real leader, you know. Like, and when things are tight, he's on the ball. Like, I mean, the last couple of balls there, he was the one picking up the breaks and doing the hard work, you know. And he's a lovely young fella. They have very fierce respect for him. And again, he's very good to talk. He knows the game well, and he's been around for a long time. And physically, he's developed too over the last year, you know. Compared to last year, he's after really putting on some good weight, you know.
It's Flannan's now in the Harty Cup final. These lads would have played them in the Dean Ryan a couple of years ago as well. Players will be very familiar with each other 2 weeks' time. Something to really look forward to now.
Yeah, we played in the group stages, our first match this year too, and got a draw out of it. So yeah, there'll be. I don't suppose there'll be much in it again, you know. And again, a final is a final, and we have to be right and get a few things sorted out for the next day. Please God.
And just in terms of the occasion itself, and sometimes like the game was hyped up for the last 10 days, but like for both sets of players to live up to the bill and like brave on the ball, puck outs, everything on point, their first touch, and even in these conditions, pitch held up well, but you know, balls can get stuck. Like there was a real high standard game, but for both sides.
You know, I said like the standard of hurling, like I mean the touches and the flicks, and you know, for as you said, for winter conditions, like is phenomenal, you know, and the skill standard is just through the roof, really, like, from both sets of players. Like, I mean, Thurles hit some points there from range, like phenomenal points, you know. Again, if you hit them in the middle of summer on a perfect pitch, you'd be delighted with yourself. You know?
That's Donnacha O'Donnell, the Nenagh CBS manager, speaking after a single point victory over Thurles CBS. Watching this one for us was Cian Tracy. How are you, Cian?
Good, Ron, yourself?
I'm very well. I think Shane Brophy makes a good point there, where he acknowledged both sides lived up to the billing, because this game was much talked about in the lead up to it. The hype machine was certainly involved because the game was sold out. I mean, these are unprecedented times for school hurling, I think, at the moment. And both teams have to be credited for delivering.
Yeah, absolutely, Ronan. I just thought the whole build-up, the whole occasion in Templederry, and credit to Templederry, there was a lot of question marks in the coming up to the game about it as a venue and maybe being too small and parking and stuff like that. They did a tremendous job. It was a brilliant advertisement for Harty Cup hurling, for Tipperary schools hurling. And as Shane alluded to, it really lived up to the bill. And sometimes these games, pressure gets in on young players and they don't deliver to their capabilities. But my God, did both sides really come to the party last Saturday. And it was just an enthralling game. From the minute that they came out from the warm-ups, you could feel the atmosphere in the stand, and they rose to the occasion magnificently, both sides. And it was a real thriller of a game, end to end, and right up to the last play, it was in hanging in the balance. And credit to Owen Dahan and credit to Patrick Hackett for winning that last free, and Dahan for nailing it for his 12th point. But overall, what a brilliant game and a tremendous advertisement for underage hurling. And
you've got to put the conditions into context as well. These are tough pitches, and again, fair play to Templederry for the facilities they had, but you can't expect summer hurling and summer type conditions in January, and I huge respect for both players for delivering in those conditions as well. Yeah, and it's conducive of a big battle, and that's what it was. It was from start to finish just a war of attrition, and both sides, with the conditions, as you mentioned, Ronan, it transpired into just a real arm wrestle of a game. And the thing that I picked up most on, I was lucky enough to be involved with Thurles CBS the last time we played them in a semi-final in 2010. And listeners, the likes of Jason Ford was playing for Nenagh, Cathal Barrett, Dennis Marr. But the condition the guys are in nowadays, Ronan, is on a totally different level to what we were at. Well, I was listening to Donnacha talking there about recovery sessions, video analysis sessions. Crikey. Yeah, and the thing that stood out from Donnacha's comments were the attention to detail and talking about it being nearly on a level with intra-county. And I just think I'm blown away by the condition, by the physical fitness, by their hurling ability. Everything in the last 15 years has just improved dramatically. And these players are all involved in these county setups. I think 6 guys who played last Saturday started the All-Ireland minor final against Kilkenny a couple of years ago, or the year before last. A couple more came on, and a lot of them, I think 8 from both sides, 16 in total involved with Brendan Cummins in the under-20. So Tipperary underage hurling is really riding the crest of a wave with our under-20 victory last year, the minor the year before. And you can see that whatever setup we have and the guys involved behind the scenes, they're really doing a tremendous job in conditioning these young players. Well, I'm probably opening a can of worms here, but I'll open it anyway, because I will come to Nenagh's performance and Nenagh's victory. But what I'm hearing there, and you're involved in education better than me, but a lot of these lads are doing their leaving cert. They're involved in Brendan Cummins. They were involved in their clubs up until probably the county under 21 championship finished relatively recently. They're involved in schools in the latter stages, and the Harty Cup will go on to an All Ireland series. I mean, crikey, we made changes to underage structures in order to prevent burnout. Is that not something that needs to be reconsidered in light of what I've just described?
Yeah, Ronan, I'm going to take it from a school's point of view. Have been involved with presentation, Thurles. The schools never seem to get their time. As you say, the clubs have them up to under 21. Then you have county squads taking them, and look, I'm sure there's big cooperation between the managements of the schools and the county, but ultimately county is the big prize. Everyone wants to play county minor, county under 20 and move on to county senior, and it just feels this time of the year it's very, very congested. Now I'm totally aware James Woodlock, Brendan Cummins, Liam Cahill all have jobs to do, but these few weeks really should be solely focused on the schools and on their quest for a Harty Cup, because it really is such a prestigious competition. Growing up, wanted to play hurling in Thurles. All we ever wanted to do, we didn't talk about playing for Tipperary, it was to play Harty Cup for Thurles CBS. I'm sure it's the same in Nenagh, in Our Ladies in Templemore. And I just think from a school's point of view, being involved at the coalface, we feel at times that we're trying to juggle, and we have fantastic management, and county minor we've Ray Ralph with the Camogie, and he's very good to us, but it just feels it's all a little congested. Guys, I'm sure last week were training with the Tipperary under 20s. CBS, both CBS, Nenagh and Thurles are probably trying to mind the players, and it's just a real juggling act. And for these players who are central to everything we're doing, they have an awful lot of balls in the air, and that's without talking about guys doing their leaving cert, searching for high points. And it's just trying to balance education, sport, and particularly guys who are at the elite level of sport who are playing on these inter-county teams. Hard to juggle it all. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. It's phenomenal. I mean, we talk on this show about developing players and sending, Woody sending them to Brendan sending them to Liam, but you need to also factor in the great work that's been done in schools, because just listening to Donnchadh there, he talked about some of the conditioning in the players. He talked about how much, muscle that his captain had put on over the course of the last year. He's not alone. I'm sure he's not. He's one of many in that dressing room, and also in the Thurles dressing room, who take great interest and great dedication to what they eat, what they train, how they sleep, all those kind of things that you expect in elite sport. But we're asking them of leaving cert students. It's extraordinary how we're developing players in this county. I say it on this show many times, I wouldn't swap our future with anyone. No, and it seems it's a golden generation coming through. That doesn't always guarantee you success. That's a fact. You look at Limerick in the late 90s, early 2000s, 3 under 21 All Irelands in a row. Didn't really progress from that. And sometimes you can be exposed too early, and maybe it comes a little bit easy. But we just have so many brilliant players. But the schools have to be looked after. I know they are, but they need to be developed in the school system. That leads on to the county, and we're getting great success. We're going for 4 Harty Cups in a row. As I said, minor champions a couple of years ago, under 20 champions. And it seems like a golden period, but it's just nurturing them in the right way. And I think school is at the centre of everything they do. With your county mates, it's the elite level. These are guys you've grown up with from first year, some of them going to primary school together. And that's why it's so special, and it means so much to play with guys that you're sitting beside in class, that you're best friends with. And we listened to Dingle winning the football yesterday, and a couple of times it was mentioned by Paul Geaney and Mark O'Connor about, your club mates, and I will put school in this category, those being the guys who will carry your coffin. I know that sounds morbid and a long way off, and that maybe your county mates are the guys who go to your wedding, but schools and clubs are so special, and they're the breeding grounds for all the success we're having. Yeah, I just looking at the Nenagh team, and I'm sure it's the same replication in Thurles, but you have fellas from Killadangan, Kilrowan, Nenagh, Bursley, Toomey Vara. I mean, they'll be knocking lumps out Moneygall. They'll be knocking lumps out of each other in the North Championship, but they're classmates and they're friends when it comes to Harty Cup. The game itself, I mean, reading the reports on it, there was no fourth official showing you how much time was left, so it was in the lap of the gods. Some of you, I'm sure, were hoping for extra time. Yeah, and with my Thurles CBS hat on, I just thought when it got to 4 minutes, I thought Joe Mullins would load and give both teams extra time, and I spoke to several people, Nenagh CBS supporters coming out, and their thoughts were the same. And I think it was just being selfish from supporters' point of view. We just wanted more. It was so enthralling, it was so gripping, and you're just thinking another 20 minutes of this would be absolutely amazing. It wasn't to be, and it was a brilliant last play which Tom Boland, who came on as a sub, a long ball up to Patrick Hackett, and Hackett was outstanding all day. The 2 points he scored from play don't really give the full exhibition that he gave. Donncha talked about it in an interview. He's so hard to stop, he's so hard to get around, and his battle with Toby Corbett was brilliant throughout. And then Owen Dahan was the man again, 12 points, 5 from play, and he just looks like a huge prospect. And his physical transformation over the last 12 months, as Donncha alluded to, has been incredible. But all over that Nenagh team, so many good players, and we're seeing these guys. Darragh O'Dwyer involved with the Killadangan senior this year. Shane Cleary, centre back, was outstanding, playing senior with Killaroon. Dahan playing Premier Intermediate with Moneygall. Patrick Ryan, who was really good, playing with Bursley seniors. Billy O'Brien, who's a guy who had huge injury issues, outstanding again, but all playing senior hurling at 17, 18, and it's really standing to them, and they look like men out on the field in Templederry. But Nenagh, it was a grain of rice was going to tip the scales, and that's ultimately what happened, Ron.
And ultimately it was the goal, Aina Tucker's goal in the first half, that probably was the scale tipper, was it? Or is that just... Did that happen too soon?
I think it was, and Nenagh definitely posed a greater goal threat, and in winter conditions, goals are going to be absolutely vital. And it was a brilliant run from Patrick Ryan, right through the heart of the Thurles defence, flicked it across, and Tucker just swiveled onto his left and buried it. And Nenagh had several goal chances. Patrick Hackett had another brilliant chance. He was dispossessed by Ryan Bargary. Another save, really good save from Rory Cross. So if you're going to threaten goals at this time of the year, and Thurles CBS didn't really threaten a goal chance, and Nenagh CBS's inside line was very threatening, and I think ultimately that was the difference between the sides. And as I said, extra time may have been a fair result, but I think just that grain of rice was in Nenagh's favour, and that they were marginally the better team.
Well, you know, there's going to be a lot of emotion in that dressing room because you've beaten near rivals. You've got to bottle that and focus now on Flannans. I mean, these are like most of those Nenagh players, because Nenagh won it 2 years ago. They don't need reminding of how hard a thing it is to win, and how you only in your secondary school career you might only get one shot at this if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, a lot of 6 years. It's not like senior club where you come back year after year. It's a very limited time period, and with the S&C now, it's very hard for guys in maybe TY or fifth year to make these teams. It's nearly all 18, 19 year olds up to the age who are playing, because it's so physical. And I think St. Flannan's growing up, St. Flannan's and Ennis were always the standard bearers, the blue ribbon of this competition. And for Nenagh CBS, that's going to be the battle now, going out to face a really stacked St. Flannan's team who have had a huge rivalry over the last 2 years or so between Dean Ryan, the first round of the Harty Cup this year, and it's just going to be really, really, again, a massive battle, and one that I'm sure the Nenagh CBS guys are really looking forward to.
Yeah, well, you know, it would have been a fitting final if Nenagh and Thurles had met in that final, because there was so little between them, and it just shows how hard it is to get back there again for Thurles. Commiserations to them, who contributed massively to a wonderful occasion, and we'll watch with great anticipation with Nenagh as they march on to that final against Flannans. Cian, as always, thank you for your time, and I think, you know, there's a couple of threads that probably deserve more attention and discussion in relation to what we're asking of these players, which we might come back to in due course if we ever get a free week. But thanks for your time this evening.
Thanks, Ron.
Not at all. Cian Tracy there with his views on that super game, Dr. Harty Cup semi-final. Nenagh CBS won 18, Thurles CBS 20 points. And while I'm on schools GAA, the Corny Vera semi-final between Clonmel High School and Pres Milltown is scheduled to take place this coming Saturday at 12:30 in Mallow. Mallow is the venue for the high school against Presentation Milltown. Our text number is 083 311 3311. Just before I turn our attention to the National Hurling League, I just want to recall something Liam Cahill said at the homecoming for the All-Ireland Senior Hurlers back on the 21st of July last. Now, there was thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people in the stadium, and Liam was addressing the crowd. Let's just remind ourselves of a few seconds of what he said about the National Hurling League.
I'd ask you here in the Field of Legends, when we come back here for the first round of the league in 2026, I ask you to pack it out and make this place a fortress where we'll never be beaten. We have the taste of what's required now. Let's keep driving it on. Up Tipperary!
That's Liam Cahill speaking to the hordes of people in Semple Stadium last July, and what he asked for there was he wanted a packed Semple Stadium for the opening round of the National Hurling League. Well, the opening round of the National Hurling League is this coming Saturday. You must buy your tickets in advance. Tipperary, Galway, 7 o'clock, Thurles, and just maybe follow what Liam has asked for. JJ Kennedy's on the line. Good evening to you, JJ.
Hi, Ronan.
I am beginning to form an opinion, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the league is taking increased importance with the round-robin series in Munster. Because if you look at the, Limerick were the league and All-Ireland champions 2 years ago. Clare were the league and All-Ireland champions a year ago. And the 2 All-Ireland finalists played in the league final. So is there an argument to be made that you can take league form into championship and therefore the league is really, really important?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, interesting point. I'm not so sure. You get very varying views on the league. Many teams and counties would take a slightly different view that it's just a sort of a building block for the championship, where you get in a lot of training during the matches, and the matches tell you a lot about where your team is at and that, but that it's not really something that counties go all out to win. I think there is that attitude, and others then, depending on where they're coming from, I suppose they might regard it as more important. Certainly last year, from a Tipperary perspective, given where we were coming from the previous year, it was important that it acted as a sort of building block for the championship, because we needed to start winning games. Basically, that was it. That was the bottom line. And
exactly 12 months ago, you and I were having a conversation on this show, and we were wondering what games we might win.
Yeah, and I don't think either of us would have anticipated that we would have won the games that we did and gone on to qualify for the league final, albeit it ended badly on the day. But I mean, just looking at the league, actually it's 100 years old this year. It's the first league final was played in early 1926. Which was won incidentally by Cork, and we won our first one 2 years later. But so it's a century old, and it is the second competition in the game of hurling. It's the second most important competition. Arguably has at this stage probably passed out competitions like the Munster final, and I know some people listening will probably bristle at that. But given the fact that it is a national competition, the second most important one in the game of hurling, it has an importance. And there was a time we used to be the kingpins of the league. Between, just looking at the record again there today, between 1948 and 68, we won 12 league titles, and a guy called John Doyle, of course, was on 11 of those, which still stands as the record. But unfortunately, since 1965, that hasn't been the case. We've fallen off a lot in terms of league. Our last title was in 2008, and I think it's extraordinary. You look at the players that have gone through the Tipperary, with Tipperary in the last decade and a half or that. The Paddy Mahers and so on, and these guys who don't have a league medal. Which is a kind of it's a bit of a lapse.
It's an anomaly, really, isn't it? Yeah.
It is, yeah, and it's something I personally would love to see rectified. We need to win leagues as well as championships, even though the championship will always be the main prize. But the league is important, and I'd imagine from Liam Cahill's point of view, going into it this year now as All Ireland champions, very, very different role than the one we had last year when we were coming in under the radar, nobody really expecting too much of us. This time it's different. We're going to be the target this time because we're going in as All-Ireland champions, and I think everybody will target their game against Tipperary as one that they're really going to go after. So it's different territory, it's new territory, and it's going to be fascinating to see how that team with so many young players on it, how they'll fare in this upcoming competition.
If you think back 12 months ago, Tipperary were in need of a win. We needed to kind of get the crowd back with us after the previous Munster Championship. We went to Salt Hill and we did one on Galway. Galway ultimately had a very disappointing year by their standards. They might want to come to Semple Stadium next Saturday night and do to us what we did to them in Salt Hill 12 months ago?
I suspect they will. Micheál Donoghue knows Tipperary hurling well, having been involved with Tipperary back the years. And you're right, we went up to Salt Hill and we didn't have huge expectations going up, but we came away winning that game by 12 points, I think it was, in the end. And it was a huge indicator, of course, of how the season was going to pan out for the two counties. As you said, Galway, hugely disappointing, and David Burke retired since, and that they're really at a sort of a building phase, you'd say, at this stage, trying to develop for the future. But hugely disappointing last year, and of course we went on then and we repeated it in the championship when we beat them pretty well in the championship as well. So I'd imagine that's a trend that they'll certainly want to stop on Saturday. So I think they'll come well prepared for this. And on the other side, Tipperary probably haven't had as good a build-up for the start of the league as they would have had last year. Last year it had sort of, their undivided attention really. This year you've had all the celebrations and the award ceremonies and the trip to South Africa and all of that sort of stuff. So we're possibly a little bit behind where we would have been this time last year, but you really won't know until the ball is thrown in, I suppose, and I suppose as well you won't know until we see the line out that takes the field on Saturday evening and how many of these newcomers will be included in it. Presumably it'll be a mix of some of the regulars and the newcomers, but it's going to be fascinating to see the team that's put out and how well they perform at the beginning of the new year.
Tom McGrath's with us. How are you, Tom?
Good, Roland, thanks.
How would you approach, or how do you think we should approach the league? We've got to blood some new players. It's a perfect opportunity to do that, and there is a massive queue of successful underage players who are only dying to cause Liam Cahill some selection headaches later in the year.
Yeah, well, I suppose you seem to have an abundance of riches, all right. But that's how they're in those talk of one stage. Like the best team in Ireland some years ago was Kilkenny subs. Subs were tried, and then they found that they weren't as good as they were being written up to be either. But I think from the point of view of the league match on Saturday night, I think the roles are pretty much reversed where they were last year. All I think we went to Salt Hill last year to lay down the marker with a mixture of, try and trust the fellas and debutants and newcomers, willing to try hard and willing to work, and that's what that game was, because it was a non-typical Tipperary day. It wasn't a nice day in Thurles Hill, but the result was super. But Galway will be coming, I think, on Saturday night. They will be disappointed with last year. They didn't play well against us. We didn't play well against them in the championship last year either, I thought. But they'll be trying to set out something now for coming year to please their management team. So it's going to be, it's very hard to predict what team either management will take that. But I think it'll make for an interesting encounter now on Saturday night. I think that given if the weather keeps kind of 3/4 decent, be a fine crowd there for a Saturday night league match.
Yeah, okay, and that's all very relevant. But I'm wondering as well, JJ. Last year our confidence was on the floor. We needed the league as a confidence builder. You can't say the same about 2026 because we're All Ireland champions. Does a team need to approach a league differently when you're All Ireland champions and you've got a sign on your back compared to last year?
Well, you do it. Obviously, it changes the dynamic when you're going into a game. You're going in last year and there was no pressure because expectations were so low, and you could have a go at it, and any sort of good performance was a plus in the eyes of the followers at that stage. On this occasion, it's different, and I suppose the question will be to see how the team that won the All Ireland with so many young players on it, to see how they'll turn out for their second season. Now, I have this thing that sometimes there's a kind of a second season syndrome where players in their initial year things go very well for them, and then they just find it a little bit more difficult in year two to try and replicate that. So it's going to be interesting to see how that will pan out with all these young fellas. We went into the Galway game last year with 4 debutants on the starting 15, and I think we brought on 2 more who again were making their debuts on the tip team. So that was 6 newcomers on that particular day. It's not going to be as much this year, and so it's just a matter of how fellas react in their second year and how they can build on what happened last year and progress from there. And this is, I suppose, been the worry with Tipperary teams back the years since the mid-60s. We found it, for some reason, very difficult to follow up on an All-Ireland, and our record is poor in the years after our All-Irelands. We haven't repeated the All-Ireland win, of course, since 1965, and of course we haven't ever won since 65 either. Any All-Ireland winning team didn't win the league the following year, so there's all of that in the background. But we'll be hoping, given the age profile and everything of the team from last year, you'd be hoping that they'd drive on again this year, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Tom, looking at the team that was selected to play Kerry in the second match in the Munster League down in Tralee, it was a strong enough team that he chose, and Liam said afterwards he was very keen to get some game time into players, even some of the most established players that he has. Does that indicate to you that that fellas' CVs that they might have in their back pocket don't count for much with Liam? He wants to see them on the pitch again this year.
Well, yeah, like you want to get fellas starting early, but the other side of it is that things have changed there. Like league is fraught with disaster. Like it goes back to my long-term view. First match is very important. Like your league position is important. Like I'm not saying we'd be relegation candidates, but you could very easily slip into it by being too experimental. And the other side of it is, from a county board perspective, that the financial aspect attached to the league that has to be factored in as well. Like, and we all know the finances. The finances of the county board have improved. They improved through some of the dividends from the league last year, as well as the other things.
200,000, Tom.
So that's not to be sniffed at.
That's a lot of county board tickets. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of gathering in that if you don't get it through the league, and that was by qualifying for the league final. So you've got to, the other side of it then is qualifying for the league final is one thing. There's a very thin line between that and get back into the relegation side of things, and you kind of hate to be mentioning that this time this time of the year, but that's it's reality that we're dealing with. It's against that backdrop that the players or the management and the selectors and all that they have to pick their teams, because there'll be a win expected, and the expectation of people, and the old cliches about Palm Sunday and Good Friday and all that thing come to mind. It's important, I think, for a lot of reasons that you kind of start well on Saturday night and use that as a springboard for something else. Now, get their 2 pints on Saturday night, then that'll give the management an opportunity to maybe do what's the new word now, do a reset on where they are and what they can do, with regard to team selections for other matches. Because if you lose on Saturday night, well then it becomes a different sort of a struggle to try and get more points, and the next match then becomes a must-win situation. And there's no easy matches in the league this year, and particularly there's only 5 matches, so you have to be given your best shot from the start.
No, it's a fair point he makes, JJ, in relation to relegation. Like Clare, Wexford, Dublin are all in 1B, and I'm sure that they would love to test themselves against the Tips, Corks, Kilkennys, Waterfords in 1A, Galway. Those sides, rather than testing themselves against the Carlows and the Antrims. Yeah,
and there are just a minor correction. You have 6 games in the group, 3 home and 3 away. The first 3 weeks are going to be hectic in this league, Ronan, because as I say, we've Galway on Saturday night. The following week we have Offaly, up in Tullamore, and I guess that's probably one that we would be expected to win, though you can never take anything for granted in these things. And then the following week, the following Saturday, 6 days later, we're down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Cork, and you can imagine the hype that there'll be around that particular game. So you have a hectic 3 weeks coming before you have a break. You then have a 2-week break in the league, and you have Limerick back in Simba Stadium, then you have away to Waterford, and then you have Kilkenny in the stadium. So it's a tough schedule. There are no soft touches in it, and as you say, it's going to be tight at both ends of the table, because you've just the top two going to the final and the bottom two facing relegation. So the difference between being contesting for the top two, one of the top two positions, and one of the bottom two, can be slim enough in this round of games. So I think Tom is right. You start as you want to continue. So getting a good result on Saturday evening would be absolutely crucial, because if you won't manage to win that one, and you'd hope then to beat Offaly, so you could be heading to Cork on 4 points of the 2 games, which would be a great position to be in.
Just finally, and I get both your views on this, there'll be a couple of young fellas who'll be tried out in the league, and the pitches are heavy. Some teams will be approaching it in different ways, and they're young, and they probably put a lot of expectation on their own shoulders, put a lot of anticipation on their own shoulders, and if things don't go right for them, it can be very, very disappointing and dispiriting for them if they have one poor league match, because the competition for a championship panel position is probably fierce. Tom, you have to manage that expectation that players might be putting on themselves, rather than what the expectation the management is putting on them.
Yeah, I think the self-imposed pressure is probably tougher than tougher than the other pressure like that. And JJ covered already the kind of second year syndrome. I mean, like, it's that there is all a couple of, it applied to a few teams in the championship. Now, I'm not going to go into the Tipperary championship, but it applied to a few teams in the championship in Tipperary in 25 that they weren't as good as they were the previous year, because they had an expectation, they had a level built up within themselves, within their own panel, and the same thing with individuals. Individuals are at a certain level now of being All-Ireland champions. And look, we're all human. Anything less than an All-Ireland win this year, from its very context, will be classed as failure. Like that, and they're an awful words to be used in January. But anything short of that, anything below that, will be a come down. And sure, anything below that then is failure. There could be great performances in it, and you might just come up short. You mightn't get the bounce of the ball, but that's the way it is. It's a results-driven game. But a lot will. It'll be interesting to see how some of them will cope with the, and there's more of them then will be better because of the experience from last year. But there's no two individuals the same. But no, it's going to be an interesting year. It's going to be a tricky year, and there's no guarantees. You're All-Ireland champions, all right, but you're there to be taken down, and that'll start with Galway. Galway always like coming to the stadium suits Galway an awful lot better than Sol Hill suits them, I think. Traditional Galway teams anyway. So
that's probably true.
That's why. Yeah, I think minimum, to be nice, minimum requirement will be, from my point of view, is that we'll need to give ourselves any bit of comfort, because with the league coming so close, or the championship coming so close at the conclusion of the league, the gap between the two is so little like that. You'll kind of, to have any degree of comfort, I think you'll want 4 points out of your first 3 games to give yourselves a little bit of leeway, shall we say, and a bit of experimentation room.
Okay, JJ, I have to move on. Last word with you. A couple of players who will be looking to put their hands up. We saw, Paddy McCormack came into the squad for the All-Ireland final, and I think he's played already this year for the seniors. Maybe even somebody like Kennelly might sort of feel like he dropped out of the squad for the All-Ireland final, might want to use the league as a building block for himself. You saw Jack from Golden who is on the freeze a couple of games there before in pre-season. Those are the kind of names of fellas who'll be probably really busting a gut to get into Liam's plans.
Yeah, and I mean, he has brought in a large number of players really over the winter into the training panel, and they've been going through their paces on the treadmill at this stage in the tough time of the year, and you really don't envy him in that. But I don't know which fellas. I mean, obviously Liam is looking at these guys in training and in challenge matches, and he's looking at their attitude and how they're responding to the demands that are being put on them and so on. And I suspect the fellas that we'll see put on the 26 or on the 15 even in the next couple of games are the guys that are putting up their hands most in that regard. So I think we'll just have to wait and see who they are. But there is a good cohort of players there in the background trying to get on the panel and have shown good promise, and have their All Ireland minor and their All Ireland under 20 medals and so on. So it's a strong position to be in. They won't all make it, and you'd be hoping that enough of them will, but that's just the harsh reality at this level. It's very, very tough to make that final cut, and a small number will make it, but we'll just have to wait and see who the guys are that he selects and how they perform against the likes of Galway.
That's a discussion for next Monday night. Gentlemen, thanks for your time this evening. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Ronan.
Thanks indeed. That's JJ and Tom joining us there with their thoughts on the National Hurling League. National Football League will be taking place obviously as well next Sunday. Tip take on London in Ruislip. Let's just hear from Liam Cahill again, because I love this piece that we took from the homecoming.
I'd ask you here in the field of legends, when we come back here for the first round of the league in 2026, I ask you to pack it out and make this place a fortress where we'll never be beaten. We have the taste of what's required now. Let's keep driving it on. Up Tipperary!
The Tip FM Sports Star of the Month with the Talbot Hotel Clonmel, multi-award-winning wedding specialists with state-of-the-art leisure facilities and spa with food served daily.
The Tip FM Sports Star of the Month.
Get your nominations in now. Extra time on Tip FM.
Yeah, don't forget our text numbers 083 311 3311. You can also get us on WhatsApp messages 083 311 3311. One texter points out to us the financial benefits, of course, of taking a good run in the league. He says, I'm not so sure that the people are fully aware of this, but it's really important to the county board. The county board received over 200,000 as a beaten finalist last year. I hope the backroom team of our seniors are given everything they require to succeed. That comes in from Bobby. Our text number 083 311 3311. Anthony Shelly's on the line. How are you, Anthony?
How are you, Ronan?
National Football League Division 4 campaign kicks off in London next Sunday afternoon. We've got 7 games to get out of Division 4. Niall Fitzgerald's first year in charge. Is that a realistic prospect?
It might be a little bit ambitious this year, but but I suppose the advantage we have this year going in is that very few players have walked away from the panel, whereas for the last 3 or 4 years we seem to be having a new panel every year, where this time, at least 32, 33 of Philly's players that he brought on last year are staying on, and then Niall has added a few more names to that. So that gives us a small bit of hope. But I think realistically, look, in 2024 we finished 6th in the league. Last year we finished 5th. Anywhere in the top 4, I think, would be progress. It's not going to be easy, but we do have the advantage of that we have 4 home games this year, whereas we had only 3 last year. So 4 home games, you could win them. You'll probably need 10 points to go up. Scrape a win on the road, maybe start next Sunday, and you never know. But I'd be happy with the top 4 because we're still a very, very young team.
They are very, very young. When you saw the team that lined out against, was it Kerry in the in the McGrath Cup? Or no, it was Cork. The team that lined out against Cork in the McGrath Cup. Yeah, that was a very, very young side.
And then it looked younger because Cork has such a strong team outside. Yeah.
I think 4 games at home, and we finish our last league game will be at home to Waterford. We also have Carlow at home. We have Leitrim at home. And we've Antrim at home. We're away to London, Longford and Wicklow. Those are our fixtures. I was interested that I saw some interview with Niall, and he was doing the analytics on how Tip play in Clonmel and how Tip played in Thurles. And he just feels that the stadium, irrespective of how many are there, irrespective of the atmosphere is there, he just feels that Tip play better in Thurles.
I seen the interview. I'm not 100% sure. Because, well, first of all, like, you're comparing the old rules when we played in Thurles before to the new rules. And last year when we played in Clonmel, we played one game in Thurles last year, which ironically enough was London, and we lost it. We've lost 70% of our last 70% of the last 11 games that we've played in Thurles. We've lost 70%. So, but look, it's up to Niall where he wants to play. I personally, I loved those days down in Clonmel where you were going in and, there might have been only 1,800 people at the game, but it felt like there was 10,000 there because everybody was in on top of the field. Whereas in Thurles, you won't even get that figure. You're back to your normal 300-400 supporters going. But, each their own. I would prefer to see it in Clonmel, but Niall has obviously looked at the figures, but it's not like we have. It's not like Thurles is a fortress for us. As I said, we've lost 70% of our last 10 or 11 games there.
Looking at even watching Dingle against St. Bridget's yesterday, the new rules have completely revolutionised the game. We're very young. Do you think they'd suit Tip? I'm thinking of the likes of Mark Russell, if we can keep him fit with his 2 points abilities. I think Paulie Feen's the captain this year. Really good choice because he's a real leader, really good leader, and a fella you'd go to battle with. I don't know. The more I think about it, the more arguments I can make. I'm looking at some of the young fellas who've come in, like Joe Higgins, who played really well in the Munster Club Championship when he faced the Bars. Fellas like that, but there's a broad range of clubs represented in Niall's squad.
There is, and Niall is very familiar with them. Niall got a good tune out of these guys out of a lot of these guys when he was the under-20 manager, and I would say that Niall had a very successful under 20 couple of under 20 campaigns with Tip, and ran Cork very close there last year. So he'll know what these lads are capable of. Look, it's very promising, but I mean, a lot of these teams will be further down the road. You can't beat a bit of experience like Wicklow. We're very unlucky not to go up last year, so that's a game I think might be a step too far. Antrim and Leitrim came down last year, and the teams that come down are always going to be one of the favourites to bounce back up. So, I as I said, there's reason for hope and reason to be optimistic, but it'd be cautiously optimistic. I wouldn't expect, if we didn't get promoted this year, it wouldn't be a disaster. But I do think we need to push into the top 4, and then maybe next year you should be looking at promotion.
We'll talk next Monday night when we'll know what happened in London, but it'll be good to get 2 points down there. It'll be a good start.
2 points next Sunday, and that game, as far as I know, Ronan, it's down for 2 o'clock, but I think it's gone back to 1 o'clock, so just let the listeners know. But if we've got 2 points on the road in London on Saturday, well then all bets are off as regards promotion.
You might be a glass half full man by next Monday. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, Anthony, thanks for your time. Okay. Talk soon. Thanks indeed. That's Anthony Shelly there previewing the National Football League, which gets underway next Sunday afternoon, 1 o'clock in Ruislip. If you're in the area, you want to tip over. It's an hour earlier than you might think it is. Let's talk Munster Junior Cup football because Barry Ryan's on the line. How are you, Barry?
Hi, you're on.
Big surprise. Well, it's a big surprise for me when St. Michael's lose a cup match, right? But I shouldn't be overly surprised because Newmarket have beaten them at latter deep stages of competitions like this before. Newmarket are a very, very good side, but St. Michael's will be hurting over this.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it's funny. It's one of those. It's kind of a double-edged sword. So St. Michael's dominated proceedings, missed chance after chance, hit the woodwork, looked all night like they were going to be the winners, and then got sucker punched towards the end. And while St. Michael's would have much rather Newmarket dominated the game and them sucker punched them, but the flip side of it is, I think Ed O'Dwyer has left during the window, which is obviously a huge void. He's gone to Villa FC, and it's obviously, he's the guy who's got all the big goals in big games and stuff like that.
But
and
he's their kind of marksman, isn't he, when in the centre?
Yeah, without a doubt. He's been the talisman in the last couple of years. And I think a lot of people went to Cook Park thinking St. Michael's without Ed Dwyer, a lot of young players playing, Sammy Laxton, and a lot of players have come in. And I think people thought Newmarket were probably going to lay down a marker and be too strong. But it was maybe St. Michael's best performance. I think a lot of people walked out of Cook Park realising they're not gone away. And I think whilst they'll be unbelievably disappointed, if they can keep those performances for the next number of weeks, they might still have a say in the title race. Yeah,
but does that sort of front man need to be replaced, or can you replace him? He's gone to Villa of Waterford, which is I don't know why. Maybe he feels that he can go deeper in national competition with them. But be that as it may, big centre halves don't grow on trees, like.
Yeah, look, I think Ed is a big loss and stuff like this, and I think it's kind of maybe reflective of a little bit of the modern game in terms of, I think, players' approach. Like, the likes of Paul Breen, Jimmy Carr, Chalky Walsh, these guys in their pomp, for me, are a level above, and they would have never considered leaving St. Michael's. I think the modern player maybe just looks at football a little bit differently. But look, St. Michael's, lost great players. Paul Tobin retired, Christopher Higgins came on the scene, towards, they keep coming. Davy Ryan retired. We didn't think we'd see a midfielder as good as him. And the players keep coming in St. Michael's. So I think they'll just look to the future. And I think that performance from some of their younger players, Jake French-Davis, outstanding, I think will probably just give them hope that there's maybe a little bit left in them this season. And look, in terms of getting goals, Jimmy Carr is still there. David Slattery is still there. There's Willie Armshaw, Russell Quirk. There's still big names there and guys who've done it.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. Fellas who have the medals to back it up, both nationally and provincially and in Tipperary as well. The realignment of the Munster Junior and the FAI Junior, it gives a bit of breathing space, doesn't it? Yeah,
it does. Look, in terms of you're still in the FAI Junior Cup, but you're still not going to play it for a couple of months. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to be. I think it's new territory for all of us.
What used to frustrate me, Barry, sorry to cut across you, what used to frustrate me was like you could have a Munster Junior Cup tie on a Saturday, and then the following week you could have an FAI Junior Cup tie, and you're in the course of 6-7 days, 8 days maybe, your season could very easily unravel. That doesn't happen now.
Yeah, and that, you know what, that's a great point because it is a fair one. If you were reeling from the game at the weekend and maybe picked up a knock or two, that could actually cost you the FA Junior Cup in 7 days' time as well. So that side of it is good, but I suppose it's the side of it, the unknown is you're going to be playing the latter stages in the off-season, and your season then will become 12 months long. Will that hurt you the following season?
Well, we are moving to summer, aren't we?
Well, we don't know in the TSGL. The indications are that they'll stay in winter football. So that's, and the FA Junior Cup will continue to play in the off-season.
I thought it was becoming mandatory that we're all aligning, no?
Yeah, well, that was kind of the party line that the FA were looking for. But now all of a sudden, there's a lot of talk that the leagues will be allowed to do their own thing, but ultimately they'll have to play the FAI in their off-season. And that will be the FAI's way of assuming that the big leagues with the big clubs wouldn't want to do that and would push for summer soccer. But there's a lot of talk in the TSDL that they won't be moving.
Okay, that's something we're going to have to revisit because you don't want to be an outlier, I wouldn't have thought. Because you want to give your players and the clubs... I understand, like, we've played winter football here since... you and I were in short pants, but and before. But I
sometimes people don't like change.
Right, okay, all right. So from St. Michael's point of view, a chance to reset, recalibrate. They'll have a couple of league matches before the FAI gets underway, and I wouldn't bet against them.
Yeah, look, the one thing about St. Michael's is people forget St. Michael's lost 4 or 5 FAI Junior Cup finals. They didn't win it every single year. They've had loads of setbacks. They've had so much success, but they've had loads of setbacks and loads of difficult days. We commentated, myself and Paul Carroll, live on the FAI Junior Cup against Newmarket, and right at the death, Shane Ryan went clean through to win the FAI Junior Cup, and the keeper makes a great save, and next thing you're beating in penalties. So they've had the worst of defeats and they've had the best of wins. So I think nobody's more equipped, I think, to dust themselves down and move forward. Okay,
in other games that took place over the weekend, there was a Premier League. You got to give credit to Cullen Latin on that home win against Clonmel Celtic. It has huge implications, I think, not least for Clonmel Town.
Yeah, it stung everybody of a Clonmel Town persuasion. That was the result that went into every WhatsApp group on Sunday. I think that's put Clonmel Town in a really, really difficult position. They're now gone 5 points adrift of Cullen, so Cullen can now afford to come to the complex and lose, and Town would still have to go and find another 3 points from somewhere. So right now, I think Clonmel Town and Cashel could be duking it out for that one relegation spot, and Cashel have a 2-point buffer over Clonmel Town as well, and they don't play each other again. So for me, Clonmel Town now need to find minimum 6 points. They need to beat Clonmel, Celtic, Cullen or Clare. They need to get 2 wins from those 3 games, because the game against Big Filler St. Michael's would look very difficult. I'm
sure our listeners in Cullen Latin are going, let's talk more about our win and not the ramifications it has for Clonmel Town, but fair play to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, Cullen Latin have built up a couple of great U teams in the last number of years, and if they stay up, it's not the story, as you said, it's not really that Clonmel Town go down or Cashel go down. They stay up on merit. They've got fantastic facilities over there. They've done it the right way. They've brought through youth players, and they've built a really, really functional Premier Division junior team now. And if they stay up, it'll be because they were good enough. It won't be because someone else dropped off, and Clonmel Town standards dropped. It'll be because Cullen were good enough to stay up.
Barry, I got to fly. Thanks for your time.
Thanks very much, Ronan.
Not at all. Ian O'Connor produced. That's all we've got time.